So we watched the movie Ruby yesterday. And which Ruby am I referring to? Because there's a horror film from the 70s called Ruby.
In some ways, this is also a horror film, but not intentionally. Uh, this is a film made in 2011 by prolific director Stephen Groo from Utah. His friends call him Wolf, I assume, based on a thing he said.
He was wearing a wolf shirt
Oh
in
my
this.
God, there's a lot of wolf motifs.
Yeah.
If you watch the movies, you'll see a bunch of like probably his own personal wall art that is in his house. It's like wolf shirt art. You
Yeah.
know, it's great
So why did we watch this movie, Julian?
because we've watched a lot of bad movies. We've both worked at Blockbuster. We've seen so many movies. We looked for the worst movies for years, and we thought we found a good selection of them. And we thought we found the people who made the most amount of bad movies. But this person has made more bad movies than we've ever seen.
Yes.
And
And you wouldn't shut the hell up about him.
I can't. It's. They're all terrible. And
I,
it's interesting because of that.
I feel like we went about 2 weeks of you texting me, hey, have you seen any of those movies yet? Have you watched this video
I
that I
wanted
sent
to.
you?
I need. I needed to know your reaction to this director.
Yeah.
Uh, they made a documentary about him with it's called The Insufferable Gru. He made a movie with Jack Black in that documentary. It's a remake of another one of his other movies. Uh, it's just as bad as this, just shot a little bit nicer and more accurately on nicer cameras.
Yeah, and so I guess we chose this movie to, I guess, get like the best sense of who he is, and
Yeah.
also it was just like a good length of time. We
Yeah.
basically chose it because of the length of time.
Yeah, I was like an hour and 15 minutes. That's enough.
Yeah. So what is Ruby?
Ruby is a crime action drama.
Okay.
I mean, that's a revenge flick. That's probably the best.
Yeah, revenge film. I
Yeah.
did I wrote a note early on in watching this. I was like, father-daughter movie. And then immediately was like, not father-daughter movie.
No, no. I mean, it opens on a field with an old man and a little girl, and it feels like they're on a date. It's weird. It's shot
Yeah.
like they're on a date.
Yeah, it is. The music and
Everything
the
about it.
dialogue is kind of
And
like, tell me about yourself.
yeah, I think they're trying like, hey, this is an interesting blind date.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to go for like their relationship is really close,
Yeah.
but I didn't get that.
Well, and what I have to like almost apologize to him for is like there's a lot in this movie where I'm like, oh, he's setting stuff up for something to be a little gross, and it never
No,
came to
nothing pays
fruition.
off.
Yeah.
Uh, like things that in any other film would be obvious foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Not in this.
Yeah.
In fact, is there any foreshadowing
Probably not. No.
on purpose? I can't even think of on accident foreshadowing. It's just a pretty by the numbers plot. Uh,
Yeah. So we have the romantic picnic between father and daughter, and then cut to
uh, the dad is in a house or hotel, and he
I
is.
think it's meant to be a house, but it's
Yeah.
definitely a hotel.
Yes, and they were definitely not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's stealing money from uh, somebody at this point. We don't know who. And he runs and he has no mask on, and he's clumsy, and he's looking everywhere. And he drops a piece of paper, and it looked like it took hours to get the shot where they dropped the paper exactly correctly. And that doesn't even pay off.
Yeah, and I've been on like shoots like that where it's like the director just needed 100 shots of that spoon being put down, and you're just sitting there waiting to film anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that immediately told me what kind of director he is.
Oh yeah, he's meticulously not meticulous, but he will focus on the wrong thing always.
Yeah. And we're getting into the plot, but like I do want to. So like, again, we've watched a lot of bad movies. Um, some of the like the big ones that come to mind, you think of Birdemic, The Room, Troll 2.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all movies directed by somebody from another country.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you hear the dialogue, you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like I get it. Like this is their second language. They barely speak English to begin with. So that's why the dialogue is the way it is. So I was pretty shocked to find out that he was from this country.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because the
from
dialogue
Utah.
is pretty on par with those films.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the whole time he's been making these movies, he's not improved the dialogue. He's not improved anything. He hasn't learned anything. And that's probably unfair. He probably has learned stuff. But in the filmmaking, because I've seen its most recent stuff and I've seen his most early stuff, and they are only different by the cameras.
Yeah.
And they're not that different in quality in any sense, even the cameras. But you can tell in the early 2000s to this point and then on forward, it slightly improves a little bit, but the quality of the shots, the quality of the audio, the ADR, everything is stagnant for him. He has a vision and he's not going to change.
This is kind of middle career for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Middle of his career.
Yeah.
But again, we do want to emphasize that we have a great amount of respect for the amount of work that he's done.
We have made, how many movies have we made?
3?
Yeah.
I want to say.
This man's made like 203. That is impressive. I don't care if they're high quality movies or what they are. It takes a lot of work, a lot of planning to do anything, good or bad. And it's impressive that he still makes it. He still makes these movies. He doesn't let his internal voice of doubt get in the way, and that's beautiful. And in many ways, I enjoy these movies more than most because I feel that he gives a fuck about them.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't give a fuck about them in a way that makes them better movies, you can tell every movie he's made, he's like, I want to make this movie.
Yeah, I will say that it did like settle in with me, and I was like, okay, like this is one of those bad movies that are watchable.
Mm-hmm. I think it's better than Birdemic. I think Birdemic gets real slow in the middle. Like once they start leaving the city, just like talk about bad movies.
Yeah,
But
so
like,
these two have like the complete opposite problems.
mm-hmm.
The Birdemic is that things take so long to develop.
Mm-hmm.
This one is that they're developing at a rapid speed.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going on
Yeah.
for a lot of the movie. They don't explain anything. They do a lot of telling, not showing. Sorry,
Yeah.
I zoned out. I was like, did I say this about a different movie?
Yeah, so we were at the father steals from his employer.
Yeah, we find that out. He talks to his wife about it, and he's like, "Hey, I stole from my boss."
Yeah.
And they imply that he's a big deal, like he's dangerous.
Right.
And he stole $200,000, which is an
Right.
insane
A
amount.
crazy amount. And then like the excuse that he gives his wife is like, well, Ruby's birthday is tomorrow. It's like, okay, well
It's like,
that's a lot of money for
yeah,
a birthday party.
no, you could have a struggle party.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Also, then it cuts to some random woman on the stairway of their house, and we find out that's Ruby.
Yeah.
We had no indication that there was a time jump.
Oh yeah, it's like a 13-year difference. So, like, we saw 8-year-old Ruby, and then we cut to current day dad 13 years from now with no warning. And then we cut directly to Ruby with no explanation until we find somebody says her name to her. And we find out she wants to be a nurse, which is never really important. But she doesn't. She can't go to school because she's poor. That's foreshadowing. That's the only foreshadowing there was. But even then, we already know that he stole the money, so it's not really foreshadowing.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's just so abrupt that I don't remember a lot of that part. Not that there's a lot to remember from it.
Yeah.
But then we get to the birthday party. Well, first it's revealed that it's apparently very important, even though it never has any actual importance to the story, that Ruby wants to be a nurse. And that's told to us in a very weird way, in which, like,
Hey, what's your dream?
yeah, yeah, the mom's like, "Hey, you're 21. Didn't you have a dream before?
Yeah, I
Did you have
forgot
a dream?
about it.
You had a dream?"
What's your
Um,
dream?
and that really goes nowhere. So then we go to the birthday party, where we actually get to meet the boss, whose name is Richard Lyons.
Mm-hmm. He is not on the guest list.
Yeah, can you tell us about his look and the look of his gang?
Uh, he is a novelty theme park cowboy with a felt cutout fake mustache.
Yeah,
He looks like a young, if you played Red Dead Redemption 2 or 1, because he's in both, he looks like a young Dutch Vanderlyn. Like he's wearing Western wear, he has that stupid mustache, and a kind of a cowboy-ish accent.
yeah. Everybody's this weird, like, cowboyish, but also mobsterish
Mm-hmm.
feel. And yeah, the fake mustache that immediately made me think, oh, he's again the kind of director who's like, I have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
My vision is that this character has a mustache, so we're gonna put a fake ass mustache. Could just left the mustache off, not necessary to anything.
No.
But in his head, that's what the character looked like, so it
Yeah.
had to have a mustache.
In my head, canon, that's on purpose. He's like, I'm gonna put this mustache on, and I'm gonna wear it, and it's gonna be terrifying. I
Oh, like the characters.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I want. That's what I want from that, and I know that that's not the case. Like in the movie, that's his mustache.
And I mean, like, you could do that and make that, like, pretty. That's probably something that I would do, not because I'm saying that, like, I'm good at making a joke, but, like, I like to take my shortcomings and make a joke out of it. So having somebody with a fake mustache, I would just make it super obvious and have characters, like, almost reference it. Um, but this is, like, zero comedy film.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they. So they're at that birthday party. They're having a good time. The bad guy shows up, and they know that the dad has the money, so they just kill everybody at this party in the suburbs
Yeah.
in the middle of the day in Utah, as if nobody will ever hear that. They're in a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, they're in a neighborhood. They shoot everybody up. They kill the dad, shoot everybody up.
And by the turnout, it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Never hear any sirens or anything. They end up stabbing Ruby.
And the bad guy before he stabs her, right before, he puts on her a necklace with a ruby on it. And then he stabs her. But we did find out that she has a trust fund in her name for $200,000. Never comes up again.
Oh yeah, the dad took the money he stole and put it in a trust fund for her.
And this will become important to talk about later, towards the end of the movie, as to what her motivation is for the rest of her life after that.
Yeah, now that I think about it, wouldn't he have had to, in order to get his money back, wouldn't he have had to like keep her alive to at least like, because he can't do anything.
No.
I mean, he can report it stolen, but then they might go, "Hey, are you involved in all these murders?"
Yeah. Yeah. It is a silly crime premise. The whole thing.
Yeah, it was like, I'm just gonna take 200,000 as a loss
Mm-hmm.
and kill all these people.
Yep.
It's like I could write it off with my murders.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, so everybody dead except for Ruby. Ruby's bleeding out. And her uncle shows up late to the party.
Yeah.
Like
Uncle
a jerk.
Jed.
That's right. He shows up and he sutures her with a real fancy kit, first aid kit from his car. He sews her up and then he picks her up and leaves the crime scene that she's a victim of and witness of.
I feel like you're leaving out the best part of that, though, is like the first aid kit that he brings out is like clearly like like a kit you buy at the grocery store.
And it came with the car.
Yeah. And then he pulls out of it like medical equipment to like sew her up, which also was like the best looking part, like wound in the entire film. Like the whole budget went to that.
But it also didn't need to be there. We can
Yeah.
get it. Just put a bandage on. She's been stabbed. We can put those pieces together. It's very much the school, like, because there's certain elements of it of that movie that have parallels with this. They show you every move that the main character makes. Everything.
Yeah, to me it's a move that like when you're in editing, you're like, oh, we can get rid of this, but then you're like, yeah, but then the movie's gonna be super short.
And to be fair, yeah.
It's like we can't cut things out of the film.
Yeah,
The film was already.
It can't be called feature length if we go short of this.
Yeah, exactly. So it stays in.
This is the limit. But they showed us everything. But they didn't, like, they showed us everything unimportant and they told us everything about the plot. But he kidnaps her from the crime scene, again, where she's also a witness and victim.
Right. The tons of dead bodies. Uncle takes her in his car and takes her to the woods.
The woods.
Yeah. No explanation for why they had to go to the woods.
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that they're lying low, but he didn't know that. Like, he didn't know the situation. He just took her.
Right. And I mean, that's us presuming that that's what they're doing, is because they never say we need to lay low. Like, it's never said.
Yeah, I mean, we're reading between the lines, obviously, because we know that they're saying there later on they have to go to town to get in trouble for that. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, my best theory is that they couldn't afford police uniforms, so they had to come up with a reason why there can't be cops involved.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing: Stephen Groo wanted to be a cop so bad. He has a uniform from the police academy,
Oh,
so he could have, but he didn't.
interesting.
Yeah, he has all the equipment. He's an EMT as well, so that's why he had such fancy kit. But the uncle takes her to the woods. He calls somebody up and talks about her while she's in a tent, a soundproof tent like all tents are. And he calls his very pointedly adopted son. He's like, isn't that your adopted son?
Yeah, so this is one of those moments we were talking about.
Yeah,
that like
this is a foreshadowing moment.
right
that
that
meant
doesn't
nothing.
Yeah, it didn't have to be his adoptive son.
Yeah, they were setting it up. In my mind, it felt like they were setting it up to have them have a romance, because they're like, isn't he adopted? And he came up. Henry is his name. He is played by the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Groo. And he is essentially supposed to be a special forces whiz. Like, he's real good at everything. But what he really is a mall ninja. Like he knows how to do mall ninja sports, mall ninjutsu.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to teach you fighting, gun, sword, and stealth. Which I don't think that's special ops stuff.
Yeah, I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm pretty sure not.
Sword.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you sword.
And the swords they use, they're not like. First of all, military doesn't use swords, right? Like.
No, he specifically said, well, you got to use the sword if you're going to sneak up on somebody. But there are smaller blades.
Right. That's definitely like a knife. Most
Yeah,
movies, I feel like I see a knife being used in those instances.
But he's like, I have swords.
Yeah.
And I want to show them off because I am a mall ninja guy.
Yeah. So much of this movie is just montages.
Mm-hmm. It is a montage movie.
Yeah. So Ruby has decided that she doesn't want to be a nurse, or that she's gonna put being a nurse off in order to avenge her
entire family.
Yeah.
An extended family and friend group potentially.
Yeah. One of my favorite lines is she mentions, like, how am I supposed to bury what am I going to do about burying all those people or something like that, you know?
Fucking nothing.
And then they do nothing.
You left them there.
Because later on, there's like a few time jumps. One being like, oh, we've been here a few weeks. And that's before Henry shows up. And then later on, they're like, oh, it's been a few months. So you've been in the woods for a few months?
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that. And I was like, she didn't have her hair cut. It's the same length. She didn't. I mean, she could have cut it.
Yeah.
But I doubt it.
I mean, just the idea that they've been in the woods for months. What was the plan if she didn't want to kill Miss Richard Lyons?
I don't think he thought about that. I don't think Stephen Groo thought about that. I think he was like, well, we know she's gonna kill him. Period.
Yeah, that is another thing. Like, it also feels like one of those movies that's like, okay, what locations do we have? We have access to a campground. We have access to a hotel stairway.
Mm-hmm. There's nobody more adept at guerrilla filmmaking than Stephen Groo. He will go anywhere. He will use any asset to film something.
Yeah.
He's gotten kicked out of Airbnbs, hotels, schools, you name it, campgrounds.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, he is kind of the closest thing I've seen to Ed Wood, who, was very similar in that regard.
He's an angry Ed Wood.
Yeah.
He's a very... angry isn't right. Like, he's a very determined, and he has a vision.
Yeah.
Angry is a little more judgmental, and like, he is passionate, for sure. But yeah, he definitely got kicked out of a lot of places.
So when he's training her, there's several different montages. It's like each skill that you just named that he said he wants to teach her. There's like a montage section for that.
Yeah, and the fighting, he was definitely explaining to her what was up in real life. Because he feels like a mall ninja guy. Like, he's like, I took mall karate, and I'm going to teach you how to do mall karate.
Yeah, so I think that's the first thing that they learn, and certainly the most silly, because when you see them fighting each other, it's pretty bad choreography.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, but a lot of it, in all of it, so the guns, the swords, the karate, you could see him like actually explaining things to her.
Yeah.
And so everything is like silent with just music behind it. Which I understand is like kind of how those go most of the time. But like, especially the shooting, they were like clearly just in a field shooting a real gun. Yeah. Which kind of, you mentioned, like ruins the continuity.
Yeah, because in the first time we see a gun being shot in this movie was at the birthday scene. And it looks so cartoony. They might as well drawn a face on that bullet. It's so silly. And the way that the gun shoots, it's all wrong. Which is weird because they shot real guns.
Yeah, because in the montage they're shooting. You see things flying out of the gun. You see the recoil, which is, just hard to fake.
Yeah, and they're not good actors. They can't do that.
Right. So that was just jarring.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I feel like you could have grabbed pretty great audio out of that with the guns.
Yeah, I bet they couldn't though. I bet they have like the cheapest mics, and they just peak. I think what they could have taken the footage of a bullet being shot though, for sure.
Yeah.
Like instead of animating one, and probably spending a crazy amount of money for what it is.
Yeah, because that wasn't even the craziest animated bullet.
No, it's bad,
Yeah.
but they definitely spent money on it,
Yeah.
which is weird.
Yeah, a lot of the blood splats too. Like they should have given a direction of like, okay, stay still because we're gonna animate blood, but instead they're like shaking and the blood's like going this way and the person's
Yeah, it's just an overlay.
yeah. Um, the shooting montage stuff was probably my favorite for that reason because I just found that funny. The sword, not bad. I mean, I wasn't like convinced that she's like a crazy killer, but I was like, okay, he might know a little bit about sword stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were using real swords, like Maul swords for sure, but they were using real swords, which is so dangerous.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, the
Even
guns
dull,
were clearly real too.
yeah, like even a dull sword is pretty dangerous. They made a point to show the main bad guy fighting off five guys or something with bokens,
Yeah,
which is a wooden sword. If people don't know,
it was the like black dynamite, like
but they had access to bokens, and I'm like, he wanted to show his swords off so bad.
yeah,
He's like, I've been waiting for this.
personal collection.
He's like, this is great. I'm Stephen Groo. I like swords. These are facts about Stephen Groo.
Again, though, it also could have been like, okay, what do we got? I've got swords. We can add a sword scene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. God. And he taught stealth, and it was real whack. It was real bad. After all the training, Ruby wants to go into town, a town that she's not been to because I assume they're laying low.
Yeah, it didn't feel like it felt like a small town because they're in the woods. You go to the small town that's
Yeah.
close. It to me, it didn't feel like it's where they like initially had come from.
But we didn't get much establishing
Sure.
of that area. But it's probably meant to be the same town. I just don't think he can shoot it consistently.
Yeah, I guess and it's probably just not thought put into that.
Yeah, I
anything.
don't. I don't think it's important at all. It would really make this everything feel more cohesive if we put it in.
Yeah.
But they go to the grocery store, and one of the flat cap guy from the gang with a vest. He's a flat cap vest guy. He sees them, and he goes back into the store after Ruby and Jed leave, and he says, "Who are these people?" And she, unlike a real person, told them that he comes in once a week. That's not a thing anyone would do.
Yeah.
So weird things like, no, dude, go away. So you trying to stalk people? That's weird. You're weird.
Yeah.
But they find out that he comes in every week, so they wait a week to follow him back instead of just following him when they saw him. That was kind of weird. But I think they needed more time with the montage.
Yeah.
So they head back. A week later, Jed comes back from his weekly grocery trip, and the bad guys have followed him, and they shoot Jed immediately, and then Ruby and Henry have to fight everybody off, and it's bad. Like Henry gets murdered, even though he's supposed to be really good at special ops stuff, and Ruby is barely touched. She just destroys everybody
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah. Oh, this is after. This is after. For. This is. We haven't talked about this, but it's the funniest scene in this. I think is when they're like, "I know, me and Dad missed your birthday."
Yeah, that was weird. And then she's like,
It's like the birthday where everybody's murdered.
"Do you remember that?"
Yeah. It's like, since we missed your birthday, here's your birthday present.
That's right, and it was
like a Laura Croft suit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That happens right before the bad guys come.
Yeah.
But before that, this is where it comes back in. The ruby that she was given as a gift, which she had on.
Yeah.
The uncle took off and put it behind and put it in a box or something and handed it to her. He took it off so he could give it to her.
Yeah.
A thing that she's been stabbed in.
I was like, I don't think you've earned this yet.
Yeah. Like, I gotta take this off.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But the Laura Croft suit, for me, was another one of those, like, okay, what are you setting up here, man? But luckily it was nothing, again.
Yeah. It was so weird, though.
Yeah. But now she's, like, ready for combat.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's ready for some cutscenes.
Yeah.
But Henry dies.
Jed
dies. All the bad guys die. Flat cap vest guy dies.
Yes.
And so she takes it to Richard. What was it? Richard
Lyons.
Yeah, Richard Lyons.
Mr. Lyons.
Shared work facility base.
Yeah. So it's like, you typically think of, like, this kingpin, this mobster kingpin, and they have their highly guarded building, but this is clearly like a Hewlett Packard is on the second.
Even if I can afford a better place, I think that it would be a better idea to save some money and keep the shrink low for my criminal enterprise.
All I really need is an office and a dance studio.
That's right, and it was a dojo that was really a dance studio.
Yeah.
Ballet too, like absolutely.
Yeah. So there's like two guys guarding a stairway, really easy to take care of.
Mm-hmm. She lets one live to show that she's not a monster.
Yeah,
because he begged her for his life. They get in a fight. The bad guy and her. He shoots her. Tries to shoot her anyway. They end up. No. I messed up completely. I forgot completely for a second. I jumped ahead. He's like, hey, put those guns down. Let's fight this out with a sword.
Yeah.
And like an idiot, she's like, yeah. And then she lost the sword fight a few times. She lost her sword and her guns. And then she started trying to fight him. And she was doing okay for a minute. And then he started beating her up pretty fast. Then bonkers shit happens. He knocks her towards the weapons.
On top, directly, he's like, here you go.
Yeah.
Buy these two guns.
Have them.
Where did the third gun come from? Because he then turns around. He throws her onto two guns.
She had two guns.
Oh, she had two guns. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, then he picks up the gun, and she quickly turns with the gun and shoots him. Mm-hmm. That's the most cartoony bullet. That one looked straight out of Roger Rabbit. Mm-hmm. Like, I was waiting for it to, like...
Yeah. It's a living!
Yeah. I had no words for it.
Yeah, it was wild. So she kills him. She avenges her family. But she's decided. And remember, she has a $200,000 trust fund or whatever.
Yeah.
In her name that she can just go and do. Yeah. Like, go take that out. Don't even need to go to college necessarily. You have money now. Like, the IRS is probably going to have some questions for that money. But, like, you might want to do that. But she's like, no, I don't want to be a nurse anymore. I want to kill people who hurt people. That's her reasoning. And the movie ends.
And while we were...
like we were getting ready, setting up.
Yeah, while we were processing what we'd seen, setting up for this, the credits are rolling, and then we get to a post-credit scene. Mm-hmm. I just want to say this directly to you. Mm-hmm. I respect that you've done so many movies. Good for you on going for your passion. How dare you do a post-credit scene? How dare you?
Well, just like everything Stephen Groo sets up, it did not pay off. He didn't make a sequel or anything else that was in this universe.
Yeah, even that didn't make sense because like she's at like a diner and this guy approaches her. He's like, I hear you could take care of people or something like that. And he sits down and he's like clearly wanting to like hire her as an assassin. And then he's like, how do I know, you're any good or
And then she pulls a gun on him in Village Inn or something. The
middle of the day.
Yeah, come on.
In a diner.
In Utah.
And her just pulling out the gun makes him go, okay. But a short film. Is this, as the person that really is the lover of these films?
Yeah.
Is this one that you would recommend?
If you like The Room or Birdemic and you watch all those, you're probably going to enjoy this. You're going to get something from it. There are probably better Stephen Groo films to watch for that in that purpose. I like that he did a Yu-Gi-Oh parody in the early 2000s. Not even parody. It's just a Yu-Gi-Oh fan movie. He's done a bunch of Resident Evil stuff that I've heard is okay for Stephen Groo.
And I know this is not the last one we'll be doing.
Oh no. So. He has too many movies for us to not watch more. We're definitely going to do the Yu-Gi-Oh. We're probably going to do a few of the short ones in one go. That's what I want to do.
Okay.
And just make that a little...
Yeah.
But that's it, really.
Yeah, that was the non-horror Ruby. So, yeah. Thank you for watching.
We'll
see you next time. Thanks again for joining us to discuss the movie Ruby. Please like, share, and subscribe so that we can continue doing this podcast. Thank you.